Hello, friends. This is Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's May 4th, 2026. May the 4th be with you, they say. The Star Wars nerds out there. We're going to cover that a little bit. Memes out of the White House, anyhow. What do we got today? Day 66 of Iran war. All signs are pointing toward escalation here. We're going to cover all that. Project Freedom launched by Trump. U.S. Navy allegedly escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz there. And then Iran's reply, all the back and forth. It's starting to look like it's going to kick off heavy again. We're going to cover all these details for you today. We have public health news. We have economic news. We have Epstein news. Quite a bit of economic news today, actually. We have geopolitical news. Looks like they're trying to have some ceasefire, at least for a couple days. They're in Russia, Ukraine, which is good. We'll take a look at that. And then we'll take a look at the ongoing demolition of Lebanon and the genocide in Gaza continues as old Ben Gavir celebrates his birthday with a noose and pistols, golden noose and pistols birthday cake. We'll take a look at that and much more on this Monday edition of Weaponized News. Thank you for joining us. Where we at there? A few people in the comments there, Fat Bob and Karen. Shout out to you guys on the Rumble. Thank you for tuning in over there. All right, let's get to on this day in history and get to all this news for you quite a bit today, actually, to get to. On this day of May 4th, we go back to the year 1818. The Netherlands and Britain signed a treaty to combat the slave trade. 1893, on this day, cowboy Bill Pickett invents bulldogging, the skill of grabbing cattle by the horns and wrestling them to the ground. And you got to be some kind of tough cowboy to pull that off. Let me tell you, that's a hell of a skill. 1896, on this day, we saw the first edition of the London Daily Mail selling for a half a penny. And we do have some economic reporting on the U.S. dollar penny going out of existence later in the show. 1904, on this day, the United States begins construction of the Panama Canal. Now we can't build anything but debt. So how far we have fallen here in America from 1904 levels of industry. 1910, on this day, the Royal Canadian Navy is established by Wilfrid Laurier. I did actually practice pronouncing that. Laurier passes the Naval Services Act, which created the Royal Canadian Navy on this day, 1910. Al Capone goes to prison on this day, 1932. Al Capone enters Atlanta Penitentiary convicted of income tax evasion. And they brag about that. I seen him at my own university when I was a student. The feds are there, the FBI and the IRS, saying Al Capone got away with murder, but we got him for tax evasion. Trying to recruit students to be feds over there at a university. 1942, on this day, food is first rationed in the United States, part of World War II efforts, and it's starting to look a whole lot like it's coming back around again. Potential rationing, or at least a food crisis. Definitely a food crisis in the third and fourth worlds. Probably we're going to see it here in what we call the first world. 1944, on this day, the film Gaslight, all-time classic, 1944, MGM releases film adaptation of Gaslight. And so everybody should check that film out. I remember seeing it in university in film class and writing a report about it. And I didn't even realize at that time the implications of what it actually meant, gaslight. Check that out if you haven't seen it. The original, 1944. 1961, on this day, NASA's first traveling spacemobile lecture brings its educational efforts to schools and communities. So they've been pumping space brainwashing for a very, very long time in this country. 1970, on this day, National Guard kills 4 anti-war protesters at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. And we wouldn't have it any other way, right? They should have probably whacked all those Palestinian war protesters at universities, right? Sure, they should have droned them at least. 1972, on this day, the Don't Make a Wave Committee, a fledgling environmental organization founded in Canada in 1971, officially changes its name on this day to Greenpeace Foundation. 1979, on this day, Margaret Thatcher becomes the first woman to be elected Prime Minister of the UK. 1992, on this day, U.S. Army and Marine Corps forces arrive in Los Angeles to end rioting following the acquittal of 4 police officers over the beating of Rodney King. Can we all get along, man? 1998, on this day, very sad day, a federal judge in Sacramento, California, gives Unabomber Ted Kaczynski 4 life sentences plus 30 years after Kaczynski accepts a plea agreement sparing him from the death penalty. Cult hero out there to some, Ted Kaczynski. 2020, on this day, world leaders pledge $8 billion to research treatments and a miracle for the bat problem, with the United States and Russia not taking part. Where'd the $8 billion go? In their friggin' arms? Public health junkies out there, where did all that money go? 2021, on this date, then President Joe Biden announces new goal of 160 million people, nearly 70% of adults, miracled up by July 4th. Remember the threats. If you don't get this miracle, you're goners by this winter. We're still here, brah. So turns out that was incorrect. Sorry to report to you here now. And then continuing, finally, on this day in our history of just 3 years ago in 2023, in 2022, bat termination slipped from 3rd to 4th, a leading cause of death in America, behind heart disease, cancer, and unintentional medical injuries, according to the National Center for Health Statistics. It was, is, and continues to be the 3rd leading cause of death, quote, medical errors. Trust your doctor, trust the science, obviously. Okay, we take a look now at our civil liberties history. Let's go back to the year 1970 and take a closer look at the Kent State Massacre. Kent State, Ohio, on this day of May 4th, 1970, Ohio National Guard shoots and kills 4 anti-Vietnam War protesters. Ohio National Guard troops mobilized because of an anti-Vietnam War protest at Kent State University, shot and killed 4 students on this day. The Kent State protests were part of a massive nationwide student protest that swept the country on May 1st, 1970, in response to then President Richard Nixon's expansion of the Vietnam War by invading neutral Cambodia. The 4 students killed were Jeffrey Miller, Allison Krause, both of whom had participated in the demonstrations at Kent, Sandra Saucer and William Schroeder, students who were simply walking in the area. 9 other people were wounded. That's kind of like walking by the yellow line over there in Gaza, right? And so, yeah, they deserve it for walking by, obviously. And so there's that horrific tragedy, and there's a little bit more details about it. But yeah, just walk by a protest, you get shot at Kent State in 1970, and just scream America, and everything's wonderful. Also on this day in 1970, we saw tax exemptions for churches held constitutional. In Walsh versus Tax Commissioner, decided on this day, the Supreme Court rejected the argument that tax exemptions for churches violate the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. The court held that tax exemptions were granted to a broad range of nonprofit organizations, and that the exemption involved minimal state involvement with religion. And then they hide behind that to be cowards at the church. Oh my gosh, my nonprofit may go away if I speak out against the evils of the state. And they've been hiding behind that ever since. Ever since they got the exemption. And then, of course, this ruling propped them up in their cowardice at American churches here. Sad to report to you. And then finally, on this day in our civil liberties history, in 1989, Oliver North convicted of Iran-Contra crimes. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, staff member with the National Security Council under President Ronald Reagan, was convicted on this day on 3 counts for crimes associated with the Iran-Contra scandal. In fact, the Iran-Contra affair was based on North's, quote, neat idea of secretly and illegally selling arms to Iran, then using the profits from the sales to secretly and illegally provide funds to anti-communist Contras in Nicaragua through the CIA. North was originally indicted on 16 counts of criminal conduct for his actions during the scandal. On this day, he was convicted of accepting a gratuity, obstructing a congressional investigation, and ordering the destruction of government documents. And so now he's marched around on Fox News as a great expert on all things we should do. I think they even do have him citing domestic policy, foreign policy. Go to your guy there, Oliver North, the expert, convicted of Iran-Contra crimes on this date in 1989. And then here's our segue to the news. And he's telling you here, great comedian Jim Brewer, who's kept it real during the bad times especially, but old Jim Brewer seems to be keeping it pretty damn real. And he's telling you, like we keep telling you here too.
It's all scripted, and they put it in your face. I'm going to give you an example.
I was like central casting. Hey, you know what? Eddie, central casting. Look at that guy, central casting.
At least a central casting. If I'm doing a movie, I pick you, General.
Central casting. Very impressive. Oh, you're central casting. What is
This man's central casting. I watch him all the time. Central casting. He's a real talent, a real guy, and he is central casting. Do we agree? Central casting.
They're central casting, the red suspenders, handsome, beautiful, smart. You couldn't get better central casting.
He is great at every way. Any central casting. I mean, this is a man that was born for the position.
No, he was central casting like the perfect Supreme Court judge.
The new CIA guy.
There's nobody in Hollywood that looks Like
He says he's central casting.
Central casting. I've never seen a group of people like this. Everyone's a
You get the point? Do you think that's just a throwaway line? My new guy who's part of the intelligence program, central casting. My new CIA guy, he's central casting. It's basically saying it fits the role you want to see. Here's your visual pornography. Therefore, you will follow and you will trust it because you need the visual.
Yeah, they're actors. Trump's in the WWE Hall of Fame. And Tucker's now telling you what we've been telling you here. Trump's a dark occultist casting spells. Here's Tucker in an interview with the failing New York Times. And everybody's shocked about this. It's not shocking if you have eyes to see.
Instead, there were a lot of cowardly people, as there always are, and Trump engenders cowardice in the people around him through intimidation. And there is a kind of quality that he has that's spellbinding, and I think it probably literally is a spell. And the effect is to weaken people around him and make them more compliant and more confused. And I've experienced this myself. You spend a day with Trump and sort of like you're in this kind of dreamland. It's like smoking hash or something. It's interesting, very interesting. And there may be a supernatural component to it. I'm not a theologian, but it's real, and anyone who's been around him can tell you it's real. Instead,
Don't fall for these dark occultist spells, man. I saw idiots posting, it's got to be fake. Maybe it's real. I don't know. I don't care how much gas costs because Trump's my president. Really? They're either paid shills or they're under the spell of this dark occultist. Keep telling you, here's a Marjorie Taylor Greene saying Trump texted her that if her son gets killed, she deserves it because she's a traitor to him. Listen to this.
I got no response from Susie Wiles. None. And she's a mother and a grandmother and a woman. I got no response from James Blair because he only cares about making money on campaigns. I did hear from Kash Patel. He said on it, but I haven't heard from him since. I don't know what he's on. J.D. Vance was very nice to me, compassionate and kind, and reassured me that he would do everything we could to find out what's going on. And then I heard back from Donald Trump. And I've saved these text messages. I'd probably get put in jail if I released them publicly, but I saved them. Where Donald Trump proceeded to tell me that it was my fault and that I deserve it. If my son gets killed, I deserve it because I was a traitor to him. That is our president of the United States. That's the man that says MAGA is whatever he wants it to be.
Melania hates that Trump is faking gay. Here's him admitting it because he is faking gay.
But don't say it. No, she's done a great job, but she hates it when I do the thing on weightlifting. She says it's so unpresidential. And she hates when I dance too at the end too. She hates when I dance to what's sometimes referred to as the gay national anthem. You know that. She hates it. You know, that song was number 5 32 years ago, and it went to number 1 32 years later. There's never been anything like it. It never hit number 1. It was number 5 32 years ago, and it went to number 1 for months during the last months of the game. We love that song, but don't say it.
He's also dropping the 32s in there. Secret Service says individual shot near the White House earlier today, triggering lockdown during live Trump speech. So they're still taking whacks at the president, allegedly, here now. The Secret Service announced that an individual was shot near the White House earlier today. The White House was put on lockdown briefly after reports that there were gunshots heard near the complex. And so, again, don't threaten these people. Don't let them provocateur you into some type of violent act. And also, they're running MK Ultra style Manchurian candidates along the side of all the rest of this insanity here now. Hey, just give them the damn ballroom. Here's some ridiculousness. Reporters run for their lives after they hear of a shooting near the White House. Duck and cover there. There's Trump on Iran earlier today.
Leading this country. Like, we have a war right now, and we're to like, what, 6 weeks? They said, what's taking so long? We were in Vietnam 19 years. We're in Iraq for many years, 10 years, 12 years. We're in all these different wars. Korea, 7 years. I won't even mention World War II. That's a big baby. But you had the wrong person up here. You'll be in World War III leading this country. Like, we have a...
We'll be in World War III with the wrong president there, really? Kind of already in World War III. Here's how we're conducting foreign policy over the weekend. This is a meme from the White House from Trump. I have all the cards, he says, talking about Iran. And people are like, dude, the point of Uno is to have no cards. That's how you win. And then here's Iran's counter. They have 4 draw 4s and a block card. Yes, we have less cards, but better cards than Trump if they're playing Uno. There is what the idiot level that Trump reduces it down to. More nonsense memes from Trump. So he claims, again, this is true, I believe. They whacked old man Khomeini, destroyed their Navy, Air Force, and air defense systems. But turns out they still have a Navy, Air Force, and air defense systems, strangely enough. And Trump says U.S. Navy is 100% operational, Air Force 100% operational, missile defense 100% operational. There's some conflicting reports to that meme. And many of the reports say they blew the hell out of like all of our bases right there. So do we really have missile defense systems 100% operational in West Asia? I highly doubt it at this point in time. U.S. transfers crew of international Iranian vessel to Pakistan. The United States has transferred 22 crew members from the Iranian vessel MV Tuska, which it intercepted and seized last month, to Pakistan, which will hand them over to Iranian authorities. Islamabad described the move as a confidence-building measure and said the ship will also be returned after repairs. The United States had intercepted the vessel in the Arabian Sea as part of its indiscriminate blockade on Iranian ports, condemned by Iran as an act of piracy. And here's that statement out of Pakistan. More from Trump with the social media diplomacy here, which is not really working out so great. Iran has taken some shots at unrelated nations with respect to the ship movement, Project Freedom, including a South Korean cargo ship. Perhaps it's time for South Korea to come and join the mission. We've shot down 7 small boats, but we blew up their Navy weeks ago, so somehow they still have boats. As they like to call them, fast boats. It's all they have left other than the South Korean ship. There has been, at this moment, no damage going through the strait. Secretary of War, what do you do with the drunken Hegseth and Joint Chiefs of Staff smoking cocaine? Dan Kane will have a news conference tomorrow morning about it. And they did have a little news conference about it. Was that today? Or maybe it'll be tomorrow. I think it'll be tomorrow, actually. IRGC defines new maritime control zone in Strait of Hormuz. Report out of the cradle. Tehran reportedly gave Washington 1 month to end the Hormuz blockade and all regional wars before nuclear talks could begin. And so that's where we're at. We have more about it here. Here's the map so everybody can be reminded about the Strait of Hormuz there. So we'll blockade your blockade. The IRGC unveiled a new operational map earlier today, formalizing its military jurisdiction over critical segments of the Strait of Hormuz. The designated area of control, as published by Tasnim news agency, is bounded by 2 strategic maritime lines, the first connecting the western tip of Qasim Island to Al-Aqin in UAE, and the second stretching from Mubarak to the waters of south of Fujairah. This announcement serves as a direct challenge to the U.S. aid of Iranian ports that has been in place since April 13th, following the collapse of the Islamabad peace talks. The current dual blockade with U.S. forces targeting Iranian shipping and the IRGC restricting broader Gulf traffic has crippled global energy flows since the U.S. and Aardvark land started the war against Iran on February 28th this year. So there's the new blockade on your blockade, Project Freedom there, Trump. And what does U.S. Central Command have to say about this? Well, they put out a statement. Vessels currently in the Arabian Gulf represent 87 countries from around the world, and as the president mentioned, they are merely neutral and innocent bystanders. Over the last 12 hours, we've reached out to dozens of ships and shipping companies to encourage traffic through the strait, consistent with the president's intent to help guide ships safely through the narrow trade corridor, said Admiral Brad Cooper, commander of U.S. Central Command. U.S. military supports a launch of Project Freedom in Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command published this on the X. CENTCOM forces will begin supporting Project Freedom today, March 4th, to restore freedom of navigation for commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. The mission, directed by the president, will support merchant vessels seeking to freely transit through the essential international trade corridor, a quarter of the world's oil trade at sea, and significant volumes of fuel and fertilizer products are transported through the strait. Our support for this defensive mission is essential to regional security and the global economy, as we also maintain the naval blockade, said Admiral Cooper. Last week, the Department of State announced a new initiative in partnership with the Department of War to enhance coordination and information sharing among international partners in support of maritime security in the Strait. The Maritime Freedom Construct aims to combine diplomatic action with military coordination, which will be critical during Project Freedom. U.S. military support to Project Freedom will include guided missile destroyers, over 100 land and sea-based aircraft, multi-domain unmanned platforms, and 15,000 service members. So quite an operation there. Project Freedom try to get through this narrow strait of the Hormuz here, blocked off. What are we in, a triple blockade now? So there you have it. Quite an operation just to try to get some shipping going on through there. Trump vows Iran will be blown off the face of the earth if they intervene in Project Freedom. That was earlier today, talking to Fox News. And the War Channel, here's the Treasury Secretary on the War Channel, Fox News. Let's hear what he had to say about the Strait of Hormuz being cut off.
Let's level set here. I think the Iranians are starting to believe their own propaganda. And just to be clear, the leadership is they hunkered down in bunkers all over the country. And, I don't think
every other day they're doing big parades and they're out there with the people, just saying. Maybe it's all fake and AI, I guess, just Iranian propaganda.
they know what's going on. But what is going on is that they're reduced. Their navy is not a navy anymore. It's a band of pirates. They are trying to cut off international freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, and the U.S. is opening that up. This is a humanitarian effort.
It's a humanitarian effort.
Tell you, 2 weeks ago was IMF World Bank Week in Washington, and I had numerous countries come up to me, some of the poorest, some of the most vulnerable, and ask us to do this because it's not only energy that's in there, it's fertilizer, it's food transport, it's LPG for the more than the billion plus people in India use to cook. So we are saying the Iranians do not have control of the strait. We have absolute control of the strait. We have blockaded the ships going into or out of Iranian ports. Their economy is in free fall, and everyone says they have the high tolerance for pain. Well, their soldiers will not have a high tolerance for not getting paid.
Part of Operation Epstein Fury, Epic Economic Fury, is the weaponization of the dollar against Iran. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said no commercial ships or oil tankers have passed through the Strait of Hormuz in recent hours. This report is from earlier today, rejecting the United States claims that 2 merchant vessels and U.S. destroyers transiting as baseless and outright lies, according to Fars news agency, citing the IRGC. The IRGC warned that any maritime movement violating its declared rules faces serious risks. Said vessels that defy restrictions will be forcibly stopped. And that's a reply to that CENTCOM message that we just read. U.S. Navy warns Strait of Hormuz main lane extremely hazardous due to unsurveyed mines. The U.S. Naval Force Central Command issued guidance earlier today directing vessels hoping to transit the Strait of Hormuz to route through Omani territorial waters south of the main traffic separation scheme, warning that the primary shipping lane is extremely hazardous due to the presence of mines that have not been fully surveyed or mitigated. Here's that press release warning. Even though we control everything, we won the war. We won the war 66 times. We've destroyed all of Iran, but they're still issuing maritime hazard warnings for the Strait of Hormuz earlier today from your U.S. Navy. The UAE Ministry of Defense announces downing 4 cruise missiles it alleges originated from Iran, saying in part that 3 were successfully intercepted. 4 cruise missiles coming from Iran toward UAE were detected. 3 of the missiles were successfully intercepted over the country's territorial waters, while the 4th fell into the sea. The UAE Defense Ministry said earlier today. UAE reports a large fire at the Fujairah Petroleum Industries Zone caused by a drone strike originating from Iran. Their civil defense is reportedly responding to the incident. And so the attack on energy infrastructure in the Persian Gulf continues. Report out of DropSite News here. They say a senior Iranian official tells DropSite News another U.S. attack is likely. Based on current assessments, another military attack seems likely, they told Jeremy Scahill of DropSite News. They say Trump's blockade has failed to achieve its goals. Trump can't keep the blockade going much longer. Increasing pressure to act warns the U.S. will likely escalate to try to force a result. Expectations of the escalation focus on Strait of Hormuz and Iran's coastline, expanded military operations, a new wave of assassination attempts of Iranian leaders, potentially with aardvarks in the back seat riding shotgun, of course, as per usual. Why Iran thinks this: Trump can't sustain the blockade indefinitely. He needs a visible outcome or, quote, win. Escalation becomes the fallback option. Iran's posture in response, preparing for retaliation across the region, has rebuilt defenses during the ceasefire and developed a new target list. America is a superpower. Why don't you back down or compromise? Well, Iran's now saying they're a superpower. So everybody wants to rule the world. As per usual, everybody is a superpower they're claiming.
جامعه جان
السلام علیکم جناب.
علیکم السلام.
آمریکا یک ابرقدرت است. شما چه ابزاری و پشتوانه‌ای دارید برای مقابله با آن دارید؟ چرا عقب نشینی نمی کنید یا کوتاه نمیایید؟
ما هم ابرقدرتیم. مهر.
So that's their foreign minister spokesman, Baghani, right? Baghani. So why don't you back down? Well, because they're superpower too, they claim. So there you go. Clash of world superpowers. Iran is hit. This report, is it confirmed? I don't know. Al Jazeera says it's confirmed. Iran has hit a U.S. warship with 2 missiles near Jask Island after it ignored warnings from Iran and attempted to enter the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. warship then retreated, according to this report. Let's watch.
The state media that a US warship has turned back from the area of the Strait of Hormuz, and that according to Iran's navy, it's prevented the entry of US warships into the Hormuz area, according to state television, going on to add that 2 missiles hit a US warship near Jask Island after it ignored Iranian warnings. Now, this is being reported by the Fars news agency, that's state media in Iran. I cannot, at this moment, independently verify that for you. But this is what we're hearing from the Iranians. We've not had any response as yet from the Americans or the White House or Donald Trump on Truth Social. I'm sure we will either get their version of events or a counterclaim in due course. But at the
We'll get their version of events and a counterclaim in due course, obviously. They're still unconfirmed, right? Trump, drop site news, Trump refuses to confirm ceasefire still holds after Strait of Hormuz clashes. Trump declined earlier today to say whether the U.S.-Iran ceasefire remains in effect, asked by conservative radio host, neocon sellout piece of trash. Oh, excuse me, I had that color. Hugh Hewitt really makes me want to throw up, that dude. Anyway, if the ceasefire was over and if strikes could resume as soon as tonight, Monday night, Trump said, well, I can't tell you that. He added, you won't if I answer the question. You'd say, this man is not smart enough to be president. Earlier, Iran said it fired at a U.S. naval vessel. Still, who did what? That's how it's going to be. The Spider-Man meme. You did it, or your version of events. U.S. intelligence says recent fighting has not significantly slowed Iran's nuclear program. I don't care about what the price of gas is as long as Iran doesn't have a nuke, even though he's been selling. Bibi Netanyahu has been selling that for the last 40 years here to America, and Trump finally bought it. And now Obama's out with a big interview, I believe in the New Yorker. I just saw the headline saying that Bibi tried to sell it to Obama, and Obama didn't buy it. So there you go. Take that version of events for whatever it's worth here now. Continuing this report out of Reuters, officials still estimate Iran would need about 9 to 12 months to build a nuclear weapon if it chose to do so, roughly unchanged from last year. Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium remains largely intact and unaccounted for, which experts say is key to any weapons timeline. What a load of PSYOP BS all of this has become here now. Again, let's remind everybody one more time to cut through all of the propaganda and lies out there. Right here from the conspiracy theorist at the State Department. Again, why are we in this war? Well, they tell us right here, the United States is engaged in this conflict at the request of and in the collective self-defense of its aardvark land ally, as well as in the exercise of the U.S.'s own inherent right to self-defense. So it's all right here, cutting through all of the bullshit, spin, lies, and propaganda for you. Just cite that State Department document right there, a letter that the State Department wrote to the UN Security Council on March 10th, as expressed in this post by the U.S. State Department. And so just save all of your other BS propaganda for brain-dead MAGAs out there. Okay, on to public health section. Is the U.S. federal government launching a weaponized ticks out there? Well, we know that they've have weaponized ticks have been weaponized for a very long time, i.e. Lab 257. Everybody should go look that up. And now there's a resurgence of Lyme disease, weaponized ticks. Many reports are alleging. The CDC says check for ticks after spending time outdoors, even in your own backyard. Tick bites can spread germs that cause illness, including Lyme disease, which is most common in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Upper Midwest. A few minutes of prevention can make a difference. Get tips to protect yourself from Lyme disease. Well, maybe if I can't even get into it. Here's their meme. 1 hour play outside for the children, and give them 2 minutes for a tick check there. No time for Lyme, indeed, as the weaponization of Lyme disease evolves. Bobby Kennedy Jr. Going after the SSRIs here.
But I happen to be an actual expert on this because I was addicted to heroin for 14 years and I never wanted to be. So I was constantly getting...
Bro, I'm on my head health dude, ex-heroin addict. I don't know about you guys, but he knows what's up, right? Right.
Off of it and then getting back on. And I went through cold turkey withdrawal probably over 100 times. And so I know what it's like, and it's not fun, but it is limited, it is finite in time. After 72 hours, it's over. So you just have to steel yourself for 72 bad hours. But I've watched people come off of SSRIs, and it's not even comparable. And I watched a family member get off of them after a couple of years on them, and she was suicidal literally every day. She woke up every morning.
Didn't they give like a sister a lobotomy? I think they did.
Said, I don't want to live. And she said, the only reason I'm staying alive is for you guys, for the family. And that's heartbreaking to hear from a family member. And I've heard that from hundreds and hundreds of people. The same story again and again. It can be prolonged, and for many patients, it's completely unexpected. And the physicians handle this by saying, oh, this is your original symptom. Reasserting yourself, you need to get back on the SSRIs. And they get locked in a lifetime cycle that is, that for many patients is absolutely cataclysmic. This is a system failure. We're not going to ignore it. Let me be clear, if you are taking psychiatric medication, we're not telling you to stop. We're making sure that you and your clinician have the information and support to make the right decisions for you.
Don't do drugs, kids. Buy all your drugs from trumprx.gov. Okay, this was so good. I think we'll replay it here again. The Neuralink. They want to brain chip everybody, and they say the quiet part out loud in this video from Neuralink we played on Friday. Let's watch it again here for public health.
The goal of the robotics team at Neuralink is to deliver the Neuralink implant in a safe and scalable manner to as many people as possible.
A safe and scalable manner to as many people as possible.
One of the great parts about working here at Neuralink is that there's an opportunity for tons of very quick iteration and prototyping and testing on the robot. To the right of me, there's 6 robots, and they're testing new changes continuously.
We are constantly learning new things. We always look at what could be better about this robot. Nobody actually goes to engineering school trying to make 5% improvements to a product. We all studied this so that we could make the 10x jumps. And when you start thinking about how do you make a product 10x better, your solution space opens up entirely.
We need people that want to work at the frontier of tech. There's no precedent to what we're doing. From an engineering perspective, it's really exciting to come in and find creative solutions to get the robot to the next level. What that means is putting more sensors in, more safety, better actuators, faster actuators. There's more compute, there's more power, and so we can go faster and help more people.
Long term, we're looking at ways to increase the depth and accessibility of the robot, and then also continuing to streamline the surgical process.
The robot is one part of that experience, but there's a lot of other steps that need to get solved and combine them together to provide an amazing experience that compares to LASIK surgery.
I think it's important for people to know that you don't have to have a medical background to join here. As long as you're a good engineer, there's a place for you here.
Specifically, we're looking for software engineers with some robotics background, firmware engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical, and manufacturing.
In the long run, we want to build a whole brain interface and solve any problem that originates in someone's brain.
We're never going to stop iterating. We're never going to stop making progress. We want to go faster and help more people.
They want to scale brain chips for as many people as possible. Glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, is being sprayed over millions of acres of U.S. forest. Most Americans have no idea it's happening. The same Roundup that Bayer spent $9 million lobbying Congress to shield from cancer liability. The same Bayer whose lobbying firm employed Trump's chief of staff and attorney general. The same chemical Thomas Massey called out at the Supreme Court. Now it's being sprayed over your forests. And that was a post by Brian Allen. And here's a little illustration of that. You should see a large increase there now. And expect even more. That glyphosate has been declared part of national security. So there you go, helping out the forest by spraying them down with glyphosate. Amazing. 60 Minutes did a report on weather weapons, surprisingly enough. Let's watch this short clip. Here's a report from Ben Swan on the weather weapons. Iran blew up the radars in West Asia, and now the region has a bunch of water. Who knew? Who knew?
The idea that you could use weather as a form of warfare. I had talked to somebody who's been to Iran, and they were there just recently, and they were telling me, they said, Western media has no idea how bad this drought has been for the Iranian people, that it was so bad that really there was a belief prior to this war starting that the regime could in fact fall because people were so desperate because water had run out. They did not have reservoirs that had water left in them. The farmers did not have water. They had reached a critical point at this point. So it's fascinating to me that now, again, maybe Mother Nature just showed up right in time. But it doesn't feel like that because, again, if we're talking about it being seasonal and cyclical as weather is, it hasn't been cyclical for over a decade now, 14, 15 years. It has not been cyclical. In fact, it's gotten progressively worse, even as the number of bases surrounding Iran became increasingly large, and there were more and more of them. You look at a map of what the area looked like in terms of U.S. bases around Iran before this war, and what it looks like now, it's a pretty stark difference. Again, we don't know that this is the cause, but it certainly seems like it would make sense if that were the case. I'm also hearing that right now in Russia, they're having snowfall, right, in April, almost May, which is highly unusual. I'm curious how much just taking your hand off the weather patterns causes it to kind of reset and maybe, because obviously Russia very close to Iran geographically, how much one thing might lead to another. I don't know, but I find it interesting to see anomalies starting to take place more on the precipitation side as opposed to the drought side.
In this, and again, we're not saying that this for sure happened. We're saying that it's certainly plausible. But in this scenario, it would seem that there are these seasonal weather patterns, and that those seasonal weather patterns of extra precipitation around this time of year have been disruptive for the last decade. So that now that the manipulation is being taken away, now they're being allowed to flow unimpeded there.
Right. And if they're beginning to flow unimpeded, there may be a process of catching up in terms of that reset, very possibly. The other thing I find interesting, and I've heard, is that some of the cloud seeding factories and installations in the UAE and Saudi Arabia were specifically targeted by Iranian missiles as well. So the Iranians hit a lot of different areas. They hit a couple of desalination plants. They've hit a few things, and one of them was the cloud seeding. I wonder if that could also be part of it as well. If you strike some of those, and now you've limited the ability for that weather manipulation to take place. Again, we don't know exactly all the details, but what I find fascinating is that for so long, and I'll give you the last word here, for so long we've heard that there is no such thing, this is craziness. And we've known for a long time, this has been, again, since 1965, the US government's been trying to do this. At what point do you think the public is able to say, okay, let's at least acknowledge one thing. This is happening on some levels, and the attempt to make it happen has been going on for a long time.
Yes, certainly. I think that there was an agenda over the past decade or so to sell us this climate change narrative, this very alarmist narrative. And I think part of the reason that this is, despite the fact that this is such a documented thing and that it's happening all around the world right now, from the Middle East to China, I think that there's an effort to write that off as a conspiracy theory, because if that was a possibility, then we wouldn't have to be as worried about this climate change narrative. I also think in areas that are Shia, particularly like Iran and parts of Iraq, they are very ideologically galvanized to outside attacks. So for sanctions, for military strikes, kind of the basis of their faith, one of the main people in their faith was the guy who stood up to tyranny. And they do this walk every year to a place called Karbala, and it's essentially an ideological reinforcement that, like, we will, even if we have no chance of winning, we will always stand up to outside tyranny. So this type of covert attack, if that is what it was, would be the perfect way around that kind of ideological block that they have, that makes them extremely galvanized to outside pressure.
Yeah, all of the efforts have done nothing but unify the Iranian people there. All right, we're almost at the top of the hour. Let's take the live commercial break. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Get yourself a holograph sticker over there, a white background sticker, a clear sticker. Weaponizednews.com/shop. We have stickers, baseball caps, t-shirts, coffee mugs, all kind of gear over there. Weaponizednews.com/shop. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. We take donations as well, help support independent reporting and analysis, brought to you 5 days a week, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Weaponizednews.com/shop. You can give us some donations if you feel like you're getting value out of this broadcast. Donation links are in the description below this video. Buy me a coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, Cash App. Go to weaponizednews.com. There's a secure PayPal button right there on the front of the website. Any which way you choose to support us is much appreciated. Go to Weaponized News Substack and become a paid subscriber there. We post everything for free. All the links to almost everything we talk about in this show are there for documentation and your further research purposes. I also add a summary of the transcript of this show, plus the video, plus Substack also gives you like 4 little supercut videos out of it as well. So a whole lot of media right there at our Weaponized News Substack channel. Again, any which way you choose to support us is truly appreciated. All the links are in the description below this video. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. All right. Welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Monday, May 4th, 2026 edition. On to the perversions of the Epstein class. It's stacking up here now. And I don't know what to make out of it, but it's going to trial here now. Aerosmith singer Steven Tyler is headed to trial following child sexual assault claims. Tying it all together, all these celebrity elitist types just can't seem to get away from the kids. It's quite disturbing as well. Aerosmith frontman Steven Tyler. A Los Angeles court determined a child sexual assault case filed against him will proceed to trial. The singer is accused of grooming, sexually assaulting, and impregnating a 16-year-old girl, Julia Misley, in the 1970s. The suit, first filed in 2022 in Torrance, California, claims he used his role, status, and power as a well-known musician and rock star to exploit Misley. The complainant also argues Tyler admitted to the alleged crimes in his own memoir, Does the Noise in My Head Bother You?, where he refers to her as his teen bride. And I'd be willing to bet there's many of these cases. All right, we'll follow that as it develops. The Democrats are trying to make political capital out of the Epstein files cover-up. They're in the House Oversight Committee. California Democrat Robert Garcia demands that Pam Bondi, now set to testify again to the House Oversight Committee, he demands that her testimony be recorded and released to the public for full transparency. It'll just be an hour-long clip of her screaming the Dow's 50K, right? And we'll accept that as a justice. Sure. 4 Epstein victims ask New York lawmakers to open his estate to lawsuits. And so they're trying to get some money out of his gazillion-dollar estate there. And again, we reported on this on Friday, but this one's just too much. The memes make themselves. It's literally too much here. Barred President Leon Botstein. Like, this guy's literally a meme, right? The memes made themselves. He's stepping down there at Bard Liberal Arts College after inquiry into his Epstein ties. Amazing. His face looks like one of those creepy masks on the wall of the dental office there, right? But you can't make this up. Leon Botstein. I mean, give me a friggin' break. But yet, it's real. Why Epstein's purported suicide note is still being kept secret. That's a older report from last week. What else did we have? I thought we had a little bit more here about it. Yeah, well, here's more from Marjorie Taylor Greene. She says Trump told Pam Bondi, don't release the Epstein files. He told everybody, don't release the Epstein files. He said his friends would get hurt if we released the Epstein files.
Wow. When we started talking about releasing the Epstein files, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. President Trump will just roll them out on a big cart himself. Stacks and stacks and stacks of the Epstein files, because obviously Bill Clinton is all in there and Hillary Clinton. That's what I had been told all along, right? Well, it was the most shocking thing when I sat in a conference meeting and I learned that the president didn't want to release the Epstein files. I was like, what? Yeah, come to find out, he was very much against it. So we kept on trying and kept on talking about it. And then the president told Mike Johnson, no, do not bring that resolution to the floor for a vote. He told the Rules Committee, and Johnson told the Rules Committee, no, you will not mark up any bill in the Rules Committee that will allow the Epstein files to be released. And the resistance built and built and built. He told Pam Bondi, don't release the Epstein files. He told everybody, don't release the Epstein files. So we persisted because that's what we promised. That's what we campaigned on, transparency and accountability, especially to pedophiles. How is that complicated? So it got to be such a gigantic amount of resistance coming from the president and the speaker and everyone, the DOJ, I said, fine, I'll do the unthinkable. I'll go over there and I'll sign my name on a discharge petition that all the Democrats are signing their name on. Talk about crossing the aisle. Me, a general in the MAGA army, crossing over to sign my name with a bunch of Democrats. Yeah, I did. Because women were raped when they were 16 and 14 years old. And he was a convicted pedophile, and we knew there were many with him. So I signed my name on the discharge petition. Oh, did I get my name on the naughty list then? Let me tell you. That became a real issue at the White House. Well, I'll never forget it. I was in my office in the Rayburn building, and I got a phone call from the president. And he was at the White House, and he wanted to talk to me about the discharge petition that I'd signed my name on. And he said, Marjorie, you're going to have to take your name off that discharge petition. We can't let, this is a hoax. We can't carry this. This is a hoax. It's a Democrat hoax. And we've got to just put this away and stop doing this. And he said, my friends are going to get hurt. He said his friends would get hurt if we released the Epstein files.
Biggest cover-up in American history ongoing. Trump part of the cover-up along with his Department of Justice. And a continuing theme here we're seeing with these people, there's something seriously wrong with them, or this is their standard operating procedure. MAGA influencer Craig Long has been arrested after being caught in a human sex trafficking sting operation. Here's this character with it. Maybe these are the friends that Trump is worried about. Craig Long arrested there. And then here's the video.
Then there's Craig Long we arrested. He's 41. Some of you may recognize him. He's an influencer. He also owns Craig Long Fitness in Tampa. He was seeking the services of a prostitute. Did I tell you that he's married? That he's got 125 followers on Instagram, 568 followers on TikTok? Well, I'm going to give him some content for his social media today. He was a previous felon who straightened up. Really what we want to see in life. Now he's an influencer. You know, he moves in big circles, even with the president. This is a photograph with the president and his son not long ago. Now, we like to see people who make mistakes early in life, and he had a long history straighten up. We like the fact that he likes the cops. Heck, he liked them so much, he got caught up in a sting and got to be up and real close with the cops.
The Epstein administration, along with the propaganda sidekick influencers. There you go. There you go. Nancy Mace still making political capital as she runs for governor of the state of South Carolina. She says the results of my subpoena of Congress's sexual harassment slush fund are in. 9 members, 1,000 pages. All records prior to 2004 were destroyed, which tells you everything you need to know about how long this has been buried. Again, there's a congressional taxpayer-funded sexual harassment slush fund to pay off the interns, the reporters, the whoever these psychopaths decide to sex harass, rape, and whatever else they do to them. Hashtag me too. Believe all women and men here now, right? Because much sodomy is reportedly going on there as well, taking advantage of young men, often overlooked in all of this as well. She went on to say, we are reviewing every page. We will name all 9 names. We will release the full 1,000 pages once we confirm that personally identifiable information of victims and witnesses has been properly redacted. Accountability is not a threat, it's a promise. And she posted this, here's her 1,000-page report about it. I don't know what her deal is. We know that you dox the victims, right? As per the DOJ. You dox and expose the victims and publicly shame them, right? No, that's what the DOJ does. But Nancy May seeing that, and hopefully she'll stay true to her word. She's on this. She also had this to this post. She said, this week we were one of few members who deposed billionaire Ted Wyatt. Wait. W-A-I-T-T. Sounds like a fake name. I never heard anybody name that. Anyway, the guy's a billionaire. This character right here. His answer to many questions was, I do not recall. A billionaire with a close relationship to one of the most notorious enablers of child sex trafficking in history, who visited the home of the former president of the United States, and his memory just happens to fail him. Particularly convenient. Yeah, well, he took the fifth. I don't blame him, because he's probably guilty as hell. But hey, that's his right. Let's be clear about what is happening here. Powerful, wealthy men have spent years banking on the idea they will never truly be held accountable for their connections to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. They have relied on silence, sealed documents, and the passage of time. We are not letting this go, no matter how long it takes. Hold the line. The redactions do help quite a bit, and the plea deals help quite a bit as well. Unreleased, or she says, release the unredacted files, prosecute the predators, make the arrests. The victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell have waited too long for justice. We made a personal promise to them and to ourselves to never stop until we deliver the accountability they deserve. And she put out this meme there. Release the files, prosecute predators, make arrests. So Nancy May, she looks like she's on the bad list of Trump too there now. Thankfully, we have the kill switches in the cars. Here's old Chip Roy on the kill switches coming out in the new cars, and all of this surveillance state tyranny on us.
We had 5 years ago in one of the bills, the transportation bills passed by the Democrats, they put in this requirement that by 27 they would have this rulemaking done to say there'll be cameras in your car to detect your eyes, to determine if you're drinking and driving, if you're impaired. But the problem is they're not always great, perfect. You get in there, you're tired, maybe you're scared, maybe you're, someone running from an attack, and you get in and you're, nervous, and the car won't start, and then the attackers can get to you. You can't get your car started. It's crazy. It could be too cold, something weird going on. It's nuts. And by the way, it puts the government and the corporate cronies in your car to track all of your activities and to surveil you.
Fourth Amendment.
I oppose it. And of course, the Fourth Amendment, and I oppose it. And I oppose the, central bank digital currency, which would track all of your purchases. And then, of course, obviously, FISA, warrantless surveillance. And so FISA did get extended for 45 days. But let me just explain that that's not a terrible result, because the deep state guys, they want it clean for another 3 to 5 years. They want it 10 years. They just want to keep extending it. We don't agree. We're fighting for reforms. We got some reforms. We got the central bank digital currency sent to the Senate. They rejected it. So we got a 45-day extension.
They're going to still backdoor it with the Clarity Act, and we're going to get Aaron Day on the show here, hopefully this week or next week. And so we'll have a lot more details on the backdoor push for central bank digital currency by another name. Google joins forces with Trump administration to unleash patriotic birthday push into homes nationwide. And so YouTube, Google, USA. You know what I mean, bro? I don't know where you guys were since you were founded by, at least partially by the government, but now you're back waving American flags once again. Wouldn't you know? Google there. They lost their mission though of don't do evil somewhere along the line. Google joins forces with Trump administration to unleash patriotic birthday push into homes nationwide. Programming uses AI, interactive storytelling, and 3D digital galleries to bring founding era documents to life. So isn't that wonderful? They'll tell you all about the Constitution and laugh in your face about it. So that's wonderful as well. Celebrating America's 250th anniversary with the Google, wouldn't you know? Here's their page. Google posted a blog about America. Excuse me. America, USA. And we're not even going to play the video here for you because everybody here loves Google. And we don't need to question this incestuous relationship with the U.S. federal government anymore. Just know that they are looking out for our own self-best interest here. On to economic reporting. Report out of the Wall Street Journal. A federal housing handout has ended. Foreclosures will follow. Biden-era program that prevented distressed borrowers from losing their homes has been rolled back. The number of U.S. homes with foreclosure filings rose 28% in March compared with 1 year ago, according to data out of Anthem. Foreclosures are still below 2019 levels, but probably not for long, is what this Wall Street Journal report reads. So they cut off this program during the BAT problem. The Department of Housing and Urban Development lifted limits on how many times borrowers could receive partial payments. The only restriction was that total claims couldn't exceed 30% of the outstanding balance on the mortgage. And so homeowners with the Federal Housing Administration mortgage who got into financial difficulty could apply for a subsidy known as a partial claim to clear any arrears on their mortgage. So borrowers can also get a loan modification to make their monthly payments more manageable. Now that we cleared up the bats, all that's going away. So you got a little subsidy? No more. Get ready to be foreclosed upon. It is a disaster for America. Interest rates are too high. Trump posting this meme about Jerome Powell. But he's going to get his guy in there, Warsh, on the Epstein list, and he'll help with the further controlled demolition of the U.S. economy. National Fraud Enforcement Division. Isn't this funny? Here's Laura Trump.
First order of business here. What are day-to-day operations like? But what was the first thing you did? Because this is a mammoth undertaking.
I think the estimates, the conservative estimates, are somewhere around $230 billion in fraud against the taxpayer every year. So it's a mammoth problem that requires a mammoth response.
But the funny thing about all this, there's fraud everywhere. But the thing is, the fundamental is until we have sound money, the entire system's a fraud. So there you go. And none of these frauds ever will address the core issue here now, will they? What's going on here in California? Over 450 hospices have been delisted. Let's watch this report. By the way, like every other dude in the Trump administration's on the Epstein list. Old Dr. Oz was inviting Epstein to a Valentine's Day family. I think I misspoke on a previous broadcast. I said Easter. I'm pretty sure it was a Valentine's Day party that Dr. Oz was inviting Jeffrey Epstein to. Anyhow, he's exposing the hospice fraud here in the Golden State of California.
Let's get into the root cause of this problem. Nobody was paying attention. And when thieves steal, they corrupt the entire society. So these busts that you're witnessing here, conducted by Billy Asile, who's the U.S. attorney out there, are the first major efforts to show the people of Los Angeles that we are serious about this problem, which is wanton, out-of-control, rabid fraud, not just in hospice, by the way. There's also personal care services and other areas we'll get into. But let me put the numbers out there so everyone's clear. 1 in 3 hospices in America are in Los Angeles, not California, LA. 1 in 3. I mean, how many people are dying there? Obviously, it's fraudulent. And the red flags that were mentioned.
How many people are they whacking in this whole Medicaid, Medicare fraud scheme, hospice deal going on there? And again, the fundamental problem with the fiat debt-based economy is we don't have sound money. If we addressed that, we would have none of this fraud problem because it would rein in government spending. Continuing here now, the beef cartel. Here's Brooke Rollins, Secretary of USDA. They're going after the beef cartel. They tell us here now.
Let's begin with the herd size. As of January 1st of this year, we have about 86.2 million head of cattle and calves in America. That is the lowest since the 1950s, and this year we're looking to be slightly down again. In the past decade alone, we've lost over 17% of our cattle ranchers. More than 100,000 ranches across this country are no more. The low herd size inherited by the Trump administration can be attributed to a variety of factors. The biggest one, at least from our perspective, is the radical left's ongoing assault against ranching as a way of life. For years, they used climate alarmism to wage a war on cattle in America. And when you...
It's more than the, quote, radical left. It's UN Agenda 2030.
Pair that with droughts, wildfire, overregulation from previous administrations and volatile markets. This is how we have ended up here today.
Engineered famine is on the horizon. Half of these meatpacking giants, including the largest meatpacker in the world, are either foreign owned or have significant foreign ownership and control, making them a threat not just to our cattle producers, but a threat to America itself. She went on to say here, as they're talking about him hauling around, they're going to break up the meat packing oligopoly. Some good news here, maybe. I don't know. They blow up my phone all day with these damn spam calls. The FCC chairman here, Brendan Carr, says the FCC is expanding our crackdown on illegal robocalls. I hope it's true because I can't even get a regular phone call. They're blowing me up with all this robocall nonsense all day. He went on to say, we just voted on a proposal that would require enhanced vetting before any provider can onboard new callers. These enhanced, quote, know your customer regulations are part of a broader FCC effort to combat illegal calls. Yeah, be on the lookout. And they're, I believe, in large part coming from overseas, so they're not going to care one lick about what the FCC has to say about this. So be aware out there. A lot of fraud, scam calls going on. And with that, Anna Kasparian exposes that Trump administration gave $17.4 million no-bid contracts to renovate fountains. The same job under competitive contracts would cost around $3.3 million there. Let's watch this report.
So Clark Construction, the same firm building the ballroom, was handed a $17.4 million no-bid contract to renovate the fountains in Lafayette Park. I mean, let's pause for a second. I'm going to read that graphic from the beginning again, but I want you to come back to me. Why do we need to renovate fountains when we're $40 trillion in debt? We're having a conversation about renovating fountains? Listen, I'm one of those women who loves beautiful things like interior design. I crave getting new furniture every other month. I don't do it because I'm not insane and I don't have the money for it, but I get it. I get wanting to renovate things. We're $40 trillion in debt. We are at war with Iran. And at this point, who knows how much it's costing us? Pete Hegseth had to testify before the House Armed Services Committee today. He doesn't even know how much we're spending on this war against Iran.
Well, obviously, she just hates America. She doesn't want to pay sixfold what it would normally cost to renovate fountains here in America for Clark Construction. Yes, indeed. The U.S. national debt just surpassed the entire economy. Indeed, it did. So U.S. national debt, 100% of GDP. This is not sustainable, but just keep on saying, I hate Iranians. And then I guess everything will be wonderful that way. Michael Burry sells off his GameStop stock. It's a report out of the Wall Street Journal. Of course, he's the big short dude of that fame. Amazon is opening its supply chain network that has powered its operations for decades to other businesses, according to a report out of Reuters. So now they're renting shipping through their logistics network. In a newly proposed business plan, project leaders estimate the Los Angeles to San Francisco segment of a high-speed rail will cost about $126 billion, with service beginning around 2040. Who's paying for all of this nonsense after they've already stolen all the money? And it goes on here with California high-speed rail project. We can't get out of the way of our own corruption to build any public infrastructure here now, can we? Big tech firms are set to spend over $600 billion on data centers this year, driven by AI investment, according to a report out of Reuters, which no one asked for. But the circle jerk of AI and big tech fraud will continue, whether you like it or not, i.e., rollout of Skynet. Japan Airlines will trial humanoid robots for baggage handling. And here's video of that. So you'll get universal basic high income along with a free brain chip from Elon Musk. And it's funny, they put GMO on the front of it. So there you go. robot baggage handlers out of Japan Airlines. And then do we have time to read all this? I don't think we do, but I wanted to remind everybody. I'll just read the first paragraph here. 3 years ago, over 3 years ago here now, with the help of AI and Thomas from Alpha Mega Energy, we wrote this article. Why are they seizing breakthrough energy technology? It's published up there on weaponizednews.com. Why are they seizing breakthrough energy technology? And this was right when AI first had become publicly available. I forget even which AI I used, but surprisingly enough, this came through when prompting it with a bunch of questions. The United States Patent Office has been hijacked by Serco, a British corporation with no assets or income. This company has been used to hijack patents ever since its creation in 2007, when it was created by the British monarchy. Their goal is to slowly take over every industry in America until there are no more jobs left for hardworking Americans. They do this by seizing patents through patent trolls, feverishly frivolous lawsuits, and legal threats against anyone who tries to fight back against them. The entire world is at risk because the U.S. government has decided to seize all energy technologies via patent infringement lawsuits in order to allow a mysterious third party to enter the market. The entire world is at risk because the U.S. government has decided to seize all energy technology. The U.S. government is using patent infringement lawsuits as an excuse to steal all Nikola Tesla's patents and sell them back to him at a profit. The reason why this could potentially be disastrous for humanity is because it would give control over fossil fuel, nuclear power, and renewable energy production over to one company or organization who could then charge whatever they want for their products. This would mean higher prices for everything from electricity bills through gas stations until eventually people will have no choice but to pay those prices just so they can survive on this planet anymore. And it goes on in more details, that report at weaponizednews.com there. As we're going into an engineered famine, the U.S. Department of Energy, though, is having fun with the memes today, unleashing American energy in every galaxy. And people are saying, why is Palm Beach Pete on the Department of Energy? No, that's Chris Wright, the secretary. That is not Palm Beach Pete. They're with Trump in their Star Wars style meme on the 4th of May. It's all fun and games. National Energy Dominance Council Executive Director. Let's take a listen to what he had to say. U.S. energy strategy.
Well, it was a great trip, huge celebration of the partnership that exists today thanks to President Trump between Venezuela and the United States. Look, President Trump is a man of action. He wants to see progress. He wants to see action take place. And you saw action and progress in 3 important sectors. Transportation, the first daily flights back from the U.S. to Venezuela. Energy, oil and gas. You saw 3 independent oil and gas companies, new entrants, signing deals with Venezuela. And on mining, you saw a huge landmark mining deal, the first of its kind, for gold, for coal, into Venezuela. All of these are showing the tremendous progress in just a short period of time between the U.S. and Venezuela. That's exactly the kind of message we want to send to the world, that relationship is strong, that now you have flights going down there, so it's now employees, it's people interested in investing, it's people interested in being down there and seeing their family members coming down to Venezuela. There was a huge party in Miami of people interested in wanting to go down. And then even on top of that, American Airlines, on the very day of the first flight, they came out and announced they're going to do two trips a day now down to Venezuela. So the progress is happening at Trump speed. This would have taken months, if not years, to get to this point, and we're seeing it in a matter of weeks. That's Trump speed. That's the kind of stuff we're doing on our side, and you're seeing.
We stole all their oil and gold and the rest of their natural resources, and Venezuela loves it. They love it. Here's Brent crude oil going up today. Surged past $114 a barrel today. Where did it close out? Let me just look here quickly for you. Where did the oil close at? Yeah, it closed, went down a little bit to 104 here now. There's different indices out there, but well over $100 per barrel today, with the Strait of Hormuz essentially closed. Here's Chairman Powell on the energy crisis.
For a long time, we've been working on the hypothesis, really, that tariffs would lead to a one-time price increase and that would go away over time. In other words, that there would be no further change, so measured inflation wouldn't reflect that higher level going up more and more. And it's time for that to happen. We really do expect that to be happening in the next 2 quarters. So we'll be watching very carefully to see that what we've thought all along would happen. That's the kind of critical part of the forecast. We need to really see that. With energy, it's so hard to say. I mentioned, in sort of the textbook, you would look through an oil shock because they tend to be short-lived and they tend to revert. And monetary policy works with long and variable lags, so you wouldn't necessarily react right away. I think that is all the more true given that we're several years above 2% inflation and that we're already looking through the tariff shock. So I think we're going to be very cautious about that.
We got money printing shock. We got tariff shock. Now we have energy shock. And we haven't seen anything yet, as it takes a while to sort through this sophisticated economy. But what the hell? Listen to Christian Zionist Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
They have full-on Trump derangement syndrome, okay? And it informs how they see the world and how they react and how irresponsible they are now is on full display for the whole country. I hope voters remember this in the fall. You got to keep the grown-ups.
Keep the grown-ups in charge, he says. Well, yeah, you guys lost the midterms because of the price of gasoline. Now let's take a look at the AAA national average for a price of a gallon of gasoline here. You can see well above $4 threshold, pushing $4.50, $4.45 today, national average for AAA. Here in California, we are well above $6, $6.11. Quite literally insane. Quite literally insane. But as long as Iran doesn't get a nuke, then we'll pay anything, right? That's the talking point out there. Make no sense. U.S. intelligence says that Iran nuclear program was not a threat to America. Who cares? Believe don't have Trump derangement syndrome. That's what these fools keep on going with, that old trope, and it's played out and burnt out at this point. And they will lose the midterm elections here now, rightfully so. And so, yeah, we've lost the penny because your inflationary policies in for a penny. Explore why the U.S. ended penny production. Well, they told us it costs more to produce a penny than a penny is worth. So that's the reasoning behind it. The real reason, the Fed's inflationary policies and a phase out to everything digital continuing here, French expert. I don't believe we have a translation here, but this dude on French TV. So to give you a reference, this dude, economics, French dude, and we played the video, but we don't have English translation for you. He said, as an ally of America, we feel a deep sense of humiliation. The global economy is on the verge of collapse due to the incompetence of Donald Trump, an irresponsible clown. Well, obviously, this guy needs to be sanctioned, droned, the whole routine, right? Sure. 500,000 American farmers don't have any fertilizer for their 2026 crop. Uncensored AI posted there on the X. Yeah. Most farmers can't afford fertilizer. American Farm Bureau Federation survey from April 3rd to April 11th showed that 70% of respondents say fertilizer is too expensive and they will need to cut back on crop production this year. All engineered by design, you see. And here's another candidate for sanctions and droning as well, going against the propaganda and lies of the state. Here, out of The Guardian, Chef Jose Andres warns of multi-year world famine from Iran war. World Central Kitchen founder believes the war could cause a silent collapse of the global fertilizer trade. What does this guy know? You get your food from Walmart. I don't know what these guys are even worrying about. UAE withdraws from OPEC effective May 1st. And so the UAE has withdrawn from OPEC, and that is having negative effects on the petrodollar. And Trump says it's great. And we have many different levels to the sophisticated complexity of geopolitics in this world. Here's Trump saying it's a race between him and the Chinese president, Xi.
The AI plans we're doing, and we're leading China in AI. And I'm going to go see President Xi in 2 weeks. I look forward to that, but I'll say I'm leading. We have very.
So it's give up any sense, give up all your freedom, liberty, all your rights, because we're in all of these Cold War races with China to the moon for AI, for energy, rare earth minerals, anything, everything. So you have nothing as long as Trump gets to win his races here now with China, you see, in his own mind. Here's everybody's favorite cartoon villain. Aardvarkland Finance Minister Smotrich boasts that the Aardvarkland stock market in its main indices has risen more than 100% since the beginning of the war. And so as long as Aardvarkland is doing well, then we should all just, praise.
היתרון הגדול, אתם יודעים, של כלכלה, שמספרים לא משקרים, היתרון הגדול של משקיעים שהם רוצים להרוויח כסף.
I can't even handle it, but that's what he's saying here. And so it's great that their stock indices are more than 100% higher than since the war began. Qatar Energy declares extended force majeure as Strait of Hormuz blockade chokes global gas supply. State producer Qatar Energy has extended force majeure on its liquefied natural gas shipments through mid-June, according to Bloomberg. The decision follows the continued closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which has remained almost entirely impassable for tanker traffic since the beginning of the Iran war. Customers were reportedly notified that deliveries will remain frozen as the naval standoff in West Asia prevents safe passage through the world's most vital energy corridor. With nearly 20% of global liquid natural gas flows offline, the extension signals a deepening energy crisis for major importers as diplomatic efforts to secure the waterway remain stalled. Beijing orders Chinese refineries to ignore illegal U.S. sanctions targeting Iran oil trade. Washington had imposed sanctions on the refineries in question over their alleged purchase of Iranian oil. And they're saying like 90%, estimates say 90% of Iranian oil is going out the back door to China. Keep that blockade going, bro. It's really hurting Tehran. But that's not what even any of this is for. It's for engineered famine, you see. Maybe Russia, Ukraine, stop. They're going to stop the war as they're blowing up each other's energy infrastructure as part of the global energy crisis now, as part of the global engineered famine. Now, Zelensky says Ukraine received no despite Russian claims, but will observe a ceasefire from starting May 6th. So it expects Russia to reciprocate and take real steps to end the war. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Russia Defense Office said Russia will launch a massive missile strike on Kiev if Ukraine violates the May 9th ceasefire. So May 8th, May 9th ceasefire coming up here now. They act, maybe they're agreeing on it. We'll see. We've had many false ceasefires there in Russia-Ukraine war. So let's pray for peace there. A Russian nuclear-powered submarine has arrived in Havana, Cuba. Take a look at this video. As Cuba's next, according to Trump, in this march to build the Greater North America project out. Cuba's under economic siege and naval blockade right now. And then here comes Russia with a nuke submarine. I don't know what could go wrong. You know what I mean? We're like just an inch away. And America loves to start all of our wars because some incident at the sea, right? So there you go. Russia nuclear submarine right there in Gulf America, hanging out pretty damn close. All it takes, a real attack, a fake attack. They attack themselves. We attack them. All kind of different ways. This can go bad real fast, you see. Here's Naftali Bennett. Sounds like a threat to me, but we know they're looking out for our own best interests and they're just taking care of us. And if Aardvark land wasn't our greatest ally, we could be nuked. And so don't you ever look up the Samson option there.
The reality is that Israel is a democracy, is the best ally America can have. And
NATO's not helping.
Imagine for a moment we don't exist, okay? And you've got the Middle East festering with jihadists and Al-Qaeda type and ISIS
and all of that is brought to you by U.S. Western intelligence. So There you go.
Hezbollah, we know what'll happen. They're going to hit the Twin Towers, 9/11.
You were in New York when that happened.
I was in Manhattan when it happened. I saw those buildings.
Is that an admission?
On fire. That's what happens when you say the Middle East isn't our problem. We don't care. So the radical Islamists will come to the big Satan, to Manhattan, to California, to America, but with nuclear ballistic missiles. And by having Israel, you do not need to send hundreds of thousands of boots on the ground, because we, Israelis, are 10 million boots on the ground, always here. Yeah. This aircraft carrier called Israel is not going anywhere. We're here to stay. We're not asking, and we never asked America to fight for us. We're fighting right now in the air together. We can defend ourselves. We do need America to have our back.
And if we don't, then you heard what will happen. Nukes will hit New York. U.S. Southern Command propaganda video. Well, large part of the world is distracted, rightfully so, with Iran. America's building the Greater North America Project. You better believe it. And so continuing operations there in Central and South America. Here's U.S. Southcom propaganda video, part of Operation Southern Sphere, ongoing.
How people are like instructors are
They're doing operations with Ecuador, El Salvador, a bunch of them, Argentina, a bunch of Central and South American countries part of this Operation Southern Sphere to root out illicit drug trafficking, allegedly. Now there's El Salvador, Chile, Ecuador. There's operations, training missions going on in all of these countries in the last few weeks here now, reported by U.S. Southern Command, part of building the Greater North America Project. All right. Department of War meme of the day, part of the thumbnail here. They just admit it. Directed energy weapons, right? And of course, may the 4th be with you. Ha ha ha, it's so cute and funny. But turns out breaking through affordability and production barriers to deliver cost-effective, high-energy solutions capable of neutralizing threats with precision. Directed energy is an umbrella term covering technologies that relate to the production of a beam of concentrated electromagnetic energy or an atomic or subatomic particles. Yeah. So there you go. Department of War bragging about directed energy weapons, and they have a whole arsenal of different type of directed energy weapons. And so they've already sanctioned her. UN rapporteur Francesca Albanese says Aardvark land is using Greece to advance its regional goals and will exploit its fears. In an interview with Al Jazeera, she said, "You think that you have chosen Aardvark land? I don't think so. She said, Aardvark land has chosen you, and it's going to exploit your fears and your insecurities. Well, if we don't, then the damn terrorists are going to nuke New York. We just heard. Iranian hacker group reveals names of hundreds of U.S. naval officers deployed to West Asia. Be careful out there. Be careful out there. And they published their names online. Hondala hacker group leaks names of 400 U.S. Navy officers. And they're calling it Operation Premature Death. So, yeah. I'm not going to show you that, but it's out there. Be careful out there. U.S. Navy men. Global telecom networks hijacked by Aardvark land firms for mass surveillance operation. Legacy and next generation communications infrastructure linked to Aardvark land is being exploited to track mobile users' locations worldwide. Aardvark land telecommunication firms were used to track mobile phone users more than 15,000 times in more than 10 countries over the past 3 years, according to a report out of Haaretz. The Aardvark land newspaper cited an investigation by Citizen Lab, a digital research group that described 2 separate operations to track the locations of mobile phone users. The operations were likely run by commercial firms selling surveillance technologies to governments around the world. Citizen Lab wrote that the findings expose how suspected commercial surveillance vendors exploit the global telecom interconnection ecosystem, leverage private operator networks, and conduct covert location tracking operations that can persist undetected for years. Researchers identified more than 500 location tracking attempts between November 2022 and 2025 across Thailand, South Africa, Norway, Bangladesh, Malaysia, and other African countries using the 2 companies' network. So they're building the global surveillance state. They're part of technocracy that we all know and love here. And yeah, sorry, Republicans are going to lose. Democrats ain't going to help. Because remember Genocide Joe? Yeah, their policies pretty much in line with Trump administration policies. Remember old Jake Sullivan? National Security advisor. We reported extensively on him and Blinken's work, right? Covering up, creating misdirection, all of this type of activity. Senior Democrats are reviving the foreign policy group known as National Security Action, co-founded by Jake Sullivan and Ben Rhodes ahead of the 2028 race, Axios reports. The group aims to shape democratic foreign policy and build a pipeline of staff for future administrations. Sullivan, who later he worked on Biden's National Security Council before leaving. Or this is another one, Bitar, another one of these characters, but their same foreign policy is what's created all of this mess now, following the same trend. So we have no good choices here now. Neocon foreign policy or, quote, progressive Jake Sullivan, Tony Blinken foreign policy. And at the end of the day, about the same. No real choices here now. I guess we got trust in Trump with his Uno memes that are losing. They're leveling Lebanon continually here now. We have video. It's the same routine, the controlled demolitions. Here's a video in the distance. You can see they're carrying out controlled demolitions on Lebanon as we speak. Another one. See, leveling the whole neighborhood there. It's ongoing. Lebanon is getting the Gaza treatment, turning into an apocalyptic hellscape. Here's reporter Courtney Bonines. She needs to watch out. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce all these, but here you go. Summary of Aardvark land air or attacks on Lebanese territory as of earlier today. And you can see airstrikes, all these places, right? Leveling these towns and villages. They're in southern Lebanon, drone striking these places and artillery shelling these places. Illegal demolitions of civilian homes and infrastructure. They're in Kima and Qattara, and I'm sure those demolitions will be moved to these other areas. As they've told us, they're taking all that land to the Litani. They're taking it all. Here's Finance Minister Smotrich. He says, my son keeps asking me not to finish the job so that there will still be something left for him to do in Lebanon. Let's watch this short clip, and we do have English translation on this one. So we can hear it right there from Finance Minister Smotrich.
בוא נתחיל אולי מהכי חשוב, הבן שלך נפצע בלבנון?
כן, ברוך השם, הוא עכשיו בשיקום, הדס הר הצופים, משתפר בקצב מהיר מאוד. מקווים שתוך שבועיים סדר גודל ישתחרר, יעבור אחר כך לאשפוז יום, זאת ייקח כמה חודשים.
אבל הוא אמור להיות לפי מה שאומרים הכל בסדר?
ברוך השם ובעזרתו הוא יחזור לאיתנו. הוא מבקש ממני כל הזמן שלא נסיים את העבודה ונשאיר לו גם עוד מה לעשות בלבנון. וזה אני אומר לו, אל תדאג, יהיה מספיק לכולם. הוא עוד יחזור בעזרת השם להילחם.
שהמון רפואה שלמה. בוא נתחיל אולי מהכי חשוב, הבן שלך...
I saw some commenter saying generational evil. It's real bad there in Gaza. It's a apocalyptic hellscape per the United Nations. They're facing pestilence there now, famine, and a rodent problem. A worsening rodent crisis is menacing displaced Palestinians across Gaza, where families living in overcrowded tents and makeshift shelters amid mountains of uncollected waste and untreated sewage. Rats are now moving in, rats and mice. Children are being bitten in their sleep, while the little food they have is being destroyed, clothing as well. A United Nations rapid assessment of 1,600 plus displacement sites this month found rodent and pests in over 80% of them, affecting 1.45 million people. More than 70,000 skin infection cases, including scabies, lice, bed bugs, have been recorded since the beginning of this year. So they're living in a giant rubble pile. As we continue to report, quite horrific. There, Gaza's municipality prevention health department said the crisis stems from widespread destruction caused by aardvark land bombardment, creating ideal breeding conditions. The ongoing aardvark land blockade on rodenticides, insecticides, and basic sanitation supplies has left first responders without tools to contain what they're calling a war of the rats. So I believe this is part of the siege there, part of the biological war being waged on the Palestinians. the drinking water there. Report out of Dropsite News. Aid Amwai, an NGO coordinator in Gaza, warns the enclave is facing what he describes as an unfolding environmental and biological apocalypse driven by systemic infrastructure collapse and blockade conditions. 97% of groundwater is undrinkable, while water access has fallen to just 3 to 5 liters per person per day, dropping to 1 to 3 liters in the north, far below emergency standards, fueling nearly 500,000 cases of acute diarrhea, many among children. All sewage systems are offline, with 130,000 cubic meters of untreated waste discharged daily into the sea. Around 500,000 tons of garbage now blanket displacement sites, 80% of which are infested with rats carrying diseases. 71% of distillation plants and 80% of water infrastructure have been destroyed. Amawai argues the crisis is deliberate and calculated ecological disaster. I would have to agree with them. This is part of the biological warfare that are being waged. And then here's some kids that are in Gaza. This is what they got left with on a swing there in the rooms. Continuing here, 3 Palestinians killed in Gaza, including a 15-year-old. The 15-year-old was in Kianis. The other one was Jabalia, and a third was in Kianis. So 3. So the genocide continues as per usual here now. Since the ceasefire took effect October 11th, 830 Palestinians have been killed there in Gaza and 2,345 wounded, according to Gaza's Ministry of Health. Since the worst attack in the history of the world, October 7th, which in large part was engineered, has since October 7th, 2023, the official numbers, and we know it's way higher than this, 72,610 Palestinians have been killed, 172,448 injured there as the genocide continues. State-backed demographic engineering threats mass expulsion of Silwan residents in occupied Jerusalem. Let's watch this short clip. So they're saying this is the worst they've seen it since 1967 there in the occupied Jerusalem and the West Bank.
قاعد البيت كأنه بيتي هذا، ولي 50 سنة فيه هذا، أحفادي وولادي وبناتي كلها في عنده هذا البيت، أنا بعد إيش فيني في هذا البيت.
indeed large-scale ethnic cleansing program for the Greater Aardvark Land Project. More reports kicking families out of their homes in the occupied West Bank. Soldiers assault residents, violently removing them from their homes. Killing like we haven't seen since 1967. Top Aardvark Land general brags about shooting Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. The Aardvark Land military is killing Palestinians in the occupied West Bank like we haven't killed them since 1967, including deliberately firing live ammunition at Palestinians trying to cross to Aardvark Land to find work, and at Palestinian stone throwers while refusing to do the same against Aardvark Land settlers, according to a report out of Haaretz there. The Aardvark Land Army's top commander in the occupied West Bank, Major General Avi Bluth, recently bragged about killing large numbers of Palestinians while speaking during a closed forum. The general expressed pride that he had relaxed the rules of engagement for firing at Palestinians from the occupied West Bank trying to cross the massive barrier or separation wall to enter Aardvark Land in search of work. That's a report out of the Cradle. And then on to Ben Gavir's Golden Noose birthday celebration. Here's some video of it. As you could see, the cake made for Ben Gavir, the consummate psychopathic provocateur, celebrating the final solution that they've laid out there for the Palestinians in custody. Here's his 50th birthday celebration cake depicting gallows, a golden noose. And so that's a celebration of the final solution. We've seen this movie. They never stopped crying about it, right? But here it is. And here's a whole shot of the cake with the golden noose and the pistols, which he's known to just go around in public firing off pistols, threatening people with guns. Complete and total insane person, Ben Gavir. Of course, this is a celebration, for those that don't know, of the Aardvark Land Legislature, Knesset, recently passing the death penalty for Palestinians in custody there. And so this is a big celebration of that, the final solution. And then here you go again. Shocking. Ben Gavir defends spitting on Christians. Aardvark Land National Security Minister says spitting on Christians is a long-standing Aardvark Land tradition and claims people shouldn't view it as something negative. And then again, reminder, 260 journalists there killed in Aardvark Land since October 7th, 2023. And they're whacking Lebanese journalists reporting on on the war in Lebanon. And they're still targeting those reporting in Gaza as well. Let's take a look That's all the reporting I got for today. Let's just take a look at the headlines quickly. If anything is broken since we've been on air here. Iran international headlines. Trump plays down Hormuz firing as Iran tests limits. Asia stocks fall. Oil stays above $100. Iran can sustain oil output despite export pressure. Tanker trackers says. Kazim News says U.S. targeted civilian boats, denies speedboats were hit. Canada expresses solidarity with UAE over Iranian attacks. U.S. destroyers transit Hormuz after Iranian barrage, according to ZBS News. And then let's take a look at Al Jazeera. And then we'll head over to take a look at some comments. Al Jazeera, Iran trade threat over Strait of Hormuz as attack on UAE condemned. U.S. Apache helicopters deployed in operation against Iranian boats, according to U.S. Central Command. Epic Fury rebranded as Operation Freedom in an attempt to convince skeptical U.S. allies. That's one headline they have at Al Jazeera. It's a pretty funny one, actually. Yeah, just change the name, rebrand it. You guys know the routine there. They can never have a nuke. Say it one more time. Just give Trump his damn ballroom. All right. Over to Odysee. Let's take a look at some comments over there. Shout out to Huffman, Deep, John. Thank you guys for tuning in. Danger on the Odysee channel. Let's see here. John says, this is an exciting development. I was arguing with a 75-year-old man who insists that H wanted to rule the world. I told him that was aardvark propaganda. He was drunk and under the influence of Hollywood films. Oh, man. Let's see here. I'm just reading through some of their comments, what I could say here. Pigeons need them fountains and clean water and cleaner water than Flint, Michigan. Indeed. Oh man, these guys crack me up sometimes. Have you seen the reports claiming Trump has an Adderall habit? The claim is that he snorts Adderall and it is the cause of his incontinence. No, I have not seen those reports. We're told Trump is Mr. Clean and sober, right? And the hardest working man ever. And he doesn't sleep either. And the memes say so. And he has Baby Yoda in his backpack on this May 4th. So would not surprise me, though. It would not surprise me. Danger says gas, $5.12 a gallon, where he's at. Yeah. And then, of course, and diesel's even higher, right? And so that's going to trickle out into the rest of the economy, and the cost of transport is going to be passed on to the consumer. And we haven't even seen that happen yet. A little bit, but it's going to be part of this engineered famine. Let's see. John says, so far, the do have only been used against American citizens. Well, they claim they used it on old Maduro there, right? In the kidnapping. That's what Trump has claimed. I believe they probably used it on others than Americans. Let's see here. The natives are getting restless. Thank you, guys. Let's see. Some last ones from John there. What about Trump being emergency evacuated from his golf tournament last weekend? do we have any hope that he will soon? Yeah, if you replace Trump, you're going to get Mr. Technocracy J.D. Vance. So, I mean, again, and then kick them all out and vote in Democrats, and you're going to get freaking Jake Sullivan and Ben Rhodes. You know what I mean? So we're literally like looking at no good choices here now. The natives are getting arrested. I got to sign off here. Thank you guys for tuning in on Odysee, X, Kick, BitChute, and Substack. Let me go over here quickly to see some. Yeah, they're asking, is this a pro-Palestinian channel on the YouTube? I don't know about pro-Palestinian. We're against all the evils that these governments are doing to everyone, however you may classify that. And we've went over the long history of all of this extensively. So however you may classify that. Let's see here. Over to the Rumble. Shout out to Jan, Fat Bob, Karen, Chloe. Fat Bob said the late David Hawkins was all over Serco for years and years. Abby Martin too. Huh. Yeah, I just I did that report. I can't believe that AI even pulled that data, but that was when it very first came out for the public, right? What's Karen say? She says, well, careful, I just may be controlling Sam's content and interviews too. That hit piece was disgusting. He must be out of material to regenerate my name into 4 other shows. Oh man. And where's Wes on the YouTube says the old Shaw said if you pull on a mullah's beard, you will find made in Britain on his chin. Indeed. Indeed. Great point there, Wex. Great point. As, of course, the Anglo-American establishment is sitting on top of all this in the shadows, laughing their heads off. Anti-Aardvark. A-Dub said, hey, man. Come on, man. Vatican, Washington, D.C., Iron Clay, Rome Never Fell, Circus Maximus, Circus of Nero in full speed. Yeah. Go look at the architecture in DC, and I just know in state of California, Sacramento, go look at the architecture on the Capitol building. You'd be like, what? There's all type of what? You know what I mean? Look at that stuff. You're like, why do they have these Egyptian, ancient Greek god sculptures all over the top of the architecture on these government buildings? Well, they're all part of this, Babylon mystery religion, you see. They don't teach you that in civics class, though. But you can go see it in person. I recommend it. It's very nice architecture, but it's like, where is all this weird stuff coming from? You know what I mean? And it tracks back to, they're all part of the, Illuminati death cult. So there you go. And of course, it's much more deep and complex than that. The Pentagon is, yeah, Jan, I hear you. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in on Rumble and Odysee, and YouTube. Excuse me. We love that Google's part of America 250. You know what I mean? We just love it. And with that, as always, everybody do your own research, peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Monday evening.